What's up everybody, Logan Parker here, Heirloom Builders. On today's video, we're going to be talking about how to install HardiePlank lap siding. How to make it look good, install fast, and last a lifetime. Have you ever started working with HardiePlank and decided never to do it again? I have. So today we're going to be talking about how to avoid the same mistakes that I made so that you can use this product and save yourself a bunch of money. This is going to be fun. Roll that intro, baby. HardiePlank lap siding is a composite material made with cement and wood fibers. You install them from the bottom of the wall, nailing the top of the plank to your framed wall, and then covering the nail head with the next course above it. That's what we commonly call blind nailing. The first time I installed HardiePlank siding was like 15 years ago on a mountain house that we were building in Lake Tahoe. We were all excited to use this new product because weather resistant, bug resistant, it's fire resistant, it's insect proof, it won't swell or shrink or crack and lose its painted finish like wood siding tends to under severe weather conditions. Basically you install it once and you don't have to worry about it for like 50 years. It kind of seemed like it was too good to be true. Maybe it was. It's pretty fragile and will break easily if you don't store and handle it with care, which is why James Hardie recommends that you store it on a clean, dry, flat surface and keep it covered until it's ready to install. It's also critical that you carry the planks on edge so they don't bend or break when you're moving them. The other disadvantage is that it creates a lot of toxic silica dust when you cut it, which can lead to a lung disease called silicosis. So it's super important to wear a respirator when you're cutting the stuff with a circular saw. It's also best to use a dust collection system that connects to your saw, but you need a specialty saw, and that's just not realistic for most contract budgets, unless you're a siding guy. We're using respirators. I use a P100 particulate filter from 3M because they're cheap, lightweight, and pretty effective. When I took my first cut on HardiePlank with a saw blade and got smoked out with a cloud of fine dust, I thought I was never going to use this stuff again. And the carbide tip blades we bought for cutting fiber cement got destroyed in a few hours. Was I missing something? Why would anybody want to use this product? And then I discovered something really important, that we actually needed to be using diamond tipped blades, specifically designed for cutting Hardie products. The cost is about $45 a blade versus about $18, but there's really no comparison. Another way to cut HardiePlank and avoid the dust altogether is by using fiber cement shears. They make a pretty clean cut, not quite as good as a saw blade, but don't require that you wear a full-on respirator. They're great for making full cuts and lengthwise rips, but for notching around windows and doors, you're better off using a circular saw. The biggest HardiePlank selling point for me is their Color Plus technology. They offer a bunch of different colors that are factory painted with a bake-on finish, which is super durable and gonna last 2 to 3 times longer than a standard exterior paint. Something that Hardie warranties for 15 years. And check this out. I did the cost analysis to save you some time if you're choosing between Hardie's Color Plus selections and painting your own custom color. Here it is. So smooth Hardie lap siding is about $1.50 a square foot of material, pre-primed. Adding 2 coats of paint on top of that is going to cost about $2.10 a square foot, totaling about $3.60 a square foot for the material and paint. On the other hand, the same smooth HardiePlank lap siding with Color Plus technology is about $2.14 a square foot, plus the 30 cents a square foot roughly for touch-ups and painting nail heads. It gives you a total of $2.45 for Color Plus. That's $1.15 a square foot savings. So for 30% less, you get a more durable finish and you don't have to hire a full-on paint crew for your exterior painting. Now let's take a deeper dive into some of the factors that make a high-quality installation go faster and look better. Design. Here's some details that we've seen on really nice homes. We use 1-inch thick corner boards, so the lap siding's slightly inset and protected. We use a 5/4 by 4 and a 5/4 by 5. When you lap those 2 boards together, it looks like you have a 5 by 5 corner instead of a lopsided corner. Modern design is all about clean lines. You might be asking yourself, well, what does that even mean? Basically, that means you want your visual focal points to line up, like the top of these windows back here. Here's the thing, you're basically creating a bunch of lines when you install your lap siding. So you really want to figure out how to land so you can get a bunch of clean lines that everybody just naturally loves. Figure out how the planks will intersect so that you can tweak the overlap and make fewer cuts. To do this, we make a story pole. Use a scrap 2x4, anything straight that you got laying around. It's best to be about 8 feet long. And cut a 7-inch block that you can use for a template to mark and represent each course of siding as it goes up that story pole. If you need to tweak the layout, now's the time.
So if we went 6 7/8, it would be above the door casing.
For example, we use a 6 7/8 inch lap instead of 7 inches so that we can line up the bottom of most of the visible windows and finish the top of the wall with a fuller width board instead of a tiny rip. And that you can see right behind me back here. If you can see in that shadow line, which I doubt you can. Soffit. Soffit's the flat surface that closes off or boxes off your roof framing from birds, wasps, and other pests that might live in the overhangs of your roof. More than likely, you'll need to vent that soffit so moist air has a path out of there. If you have airspace, you need to give moist air a way out of there. Don't let it get trapped and mold or rot your framing. Hardie offers a vented soffit option in different widths, so it's best to match that with your rough framing so that you don't have to rip a whole bunch of soffit panels. On the gable ends, we have a 24-inch wide soffit. So we just make sure that our rough frame is that width so we can just put our board up there instead of having to rip it. Once you've inspected your framing and sheathing for adequate nailing, then install your tape and weather-resistive barrier, which is Tyvek on most houses, but we have a zip wall sheathing system here. You also need to install your windows and doors before you start installing siding, since the siding will butt up to the windows and doors, and you'll need to flash them appropriately. Ideally, you'll be able to install the boxing and siding for each wall at the same time. It's best to install your boxing, the fascia and soffit, before you install your siding, so that the siding butts up nice and tight to it. It's counterintuitive since trim usually covers over other materials. In the case of siding, the cleanest corners are trimmed before siding is installed. That way you don't end up with exposed gaps between siding and overlapped corner trim. Closing that gap prevents insects and windblown rain from getting in behind your siding and rotting out your corners. Placement of outdoor receptacles, hose bibs, and wall sconce lighting. It's an important step to consider ahead of time so that you can box them out easily before you install siding. Cutting fiber cement siding in place is a nightmare. It ruins your bits and blades, and it's really tough to cut through. Exterior outlets. We like to cut a block from a piece of 1x6 PVC exterior trim board. Hose bibs, kind of the same thing as these exterior outlets. We position them on the second course of siding so that you can fit a 5-gallon bucket underneath and let it sit there and fill and not have to hold it or tilt it. Wall sconces are the exterior lights that hang next to your exterior doors. They don't look good if they're hanging on a slant. And most of the time, the back plate of your sconce light will span more than one piece of siding. So if it's in the middle, you're gonna have a big old gap behind there, and you don't want that. It's unsightly. It would invite all kinds of bugs and pests to live inside. So we install a 1-inch thick, weather-resistant block that's about an inch larger width and height than the back plate of the wall sconce, and try to line it up with your siding if possible. You want your light to be about eye level, measured off the door landing, so you may need to move the block up or down a little bit if it hangs down really far. Flash the top edge like any other piece of horizontal trim. If you're installing window casing or trim around your exterior doors, you need to do that before you install your siding planks as well. You'll need to make your flashing, sometimes called drip cap, stick out past the leading edge of your window and door casing and turn down onto the face of the trim. So to recap, finish your wall framing, install your windows and doors, build out your boxing and install your soffit and fascia, install your corner boards, and get rolling on your siding. Wow, we just covered a lot of details, so now the siding should go pretty easy. Installing Hardie plank lap siding. Snap a level line for the first course and make sure that you're 6 inches above final grade with the bottom edge of your siding and trim. That's a building code thing. The more space you have between the dirt and your siding, the better all. We use a builder's level to mark a level line all the way around the house instead of pulling a measurement off of that jagged wall sheathing. You also want to hang down a 1/2 inch below the bottom of your wall sheathing to create a drip edge and help protect from that beaded up water. Once you have a level line all the way around the house, use your story pole to figure out your siding reveal and line it up with the most prominent lines or openings in your home. Tweak that overlap, but make sure that you keep a minimum of 1.25 inch overlap. Rip an 1.25 inch piece of scrap hardy or 1/4 inch thick pressure treated wood to nail onto the bottom of your wall as a starter strip so that it pitches the siding out just a little bit to match the rest of your siding. Blind nail hardy plank lap siding and nail through the plank within 3/4 or 1 inch from the top of that plank. And where 2 planks butt together, you want to be within 3/8 of each edge. Use stainless steel nails or hot dip galvanized nails to attach the siding. Most of the time a 2-inch nail is going to be fine. But here we have 1 inch of foam insulation, so we need a 3-inch nail in order to get a full 1 inch of bite into the stud framing. Nail heads should be flush or snug to the surface of the plank. But just be careful when you're nailing within that 3/8 of an inch of the edge. If you try to angle your nail so you can like hit the center of that stud, that head comes at an angle and a lot of times it'll blow out your corner. Just make sure that you're nailing straight in within 3/8 of an inch and you're going to be fine. It's super important to install flashing behind each butt joint in your siding. We use 30-pound felt paper because we usually have scraps of it lying around. It's positioned evenly around that butt joint, 2 inches on each side, and then we extend it down over the previous course below about 1 inch. James Hardie makes a color match caulk that works really well. However, for aesthetic reasons, they recommend that you do not caulk the joints between the Color Plus planks because that caulk is going to fade at a different rate than the actual pre-colored siding, and it's going to telegraph those joints in the future. Hardie recommends that you either cover, caulk, or paint all field cut edges. We use a 3/16 inch spacer to make a consistent gap and caulk that expansion contraction joint between siding and corner boards, and between siding and windows, and between siding and doors. Use an elastomeric joint sealant that complies with ASTM C920 grade NS, class 25 or higher. If you choose to use the primed Hardie plank siding and paint your own custom color, Hardie recommends that you paint within 180 days of installation and that you use 100% acrylic paint top coats. Do not use oil-based paints. And also do not paint when the siding is wet, obviously. If you apply paint with a sprayer, make sure you back roll it for best results. Most siding guys install the gable trim first and butt up to it with the mitered siding and then caulk that joint. We prefer to run our siding all the way up to the soffit, caulk the siding to the soffit, and then trim over top of that. It's a much more waterproof look, and the aesthetic is actually, I think, even a little better. Some guys might think this looks a little bit weird to cover up over top of the siding with the gable trim, but honestly, I would much rather have a call from a homeowner who's worried about wasps that might have gotten up in that little gap versus a call from a homeowner saying, my whole wall is molding and totally rotted out. Clearances and flashing requirements. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Hardie website here because we have a really simple house right here and we only have a few of these flashing details to show you. Roof to wall, you want a 1 inch minimum gap between the roof that goes along a wall. Horizontal flashing, we have plenty of that here. Over doors, over blocks. Anytime you have a horizontal joint, like a belly band, you want to use a horizontal Z flashing to get water to drain from your siding and out over top of that horizontal penetration in your siding. Kick-out flashing at roof-to-wall intersections that terminate mid-span of a wall need to be 4 inches by 4 inches. Slabs and step clearances, siding 1 inch. Remember how sweet that Color Plus siding is? You install it and then you're done, right? Not completely. You still need to go back and paint the exposed nail heads and caulk any nail holes from overdriven nails through your trim. We use Crawford's putty for nail holes and wipe clean with a damp rag. Installing Hardie plank is not exactly easy, but the wow factor is incredible. And the feeling that you get from installing a 50-year product is fantastic. That is a major factor in building a green home, and that's why we support this product. Look at how fun that was. And it's really not all that difficult once you know how to get it started right and how to handle some of these critical details. I hope that you found this video helpful. Smash that like button if you got something out of it. And subscribe to our channel for more information on how to build a better home. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll be roughing in the electrical and plumbing on this sweet little house. Until then, good luck and peace out.